You know what, it's not how, it's how many. And, you know, there were times when it was really crummy, when they come down and get 3 3-pointers in a row, with nobody even within 3 feet of her. That just has to tear your heart out when you're up by 12 and looking to you know, put the cap on this thing. But then again, it puts you in a hole, and I think your girls played with a lot of intensity, a lot of grit in the overtime. You know, and I mean, Rebecca Half hits a 3-pointer from the top. That doesn't happen very often. I mean,
She can shoot.
No, she got a good look, and it was great. And then, you know, Smith, who I still think is just on the verge of having one of those games. Well, I think she's had them, but just, you know, without falling down, she tries too hard sometimes. Once she could have made the easiest layup, and she thought she had to kick it out. And but then again, she hits a 3-pointer, which puts you up, you know, by 3 more in the overtime. And in the overtime, you know, 5 minutes seems like a long time, but it's not when you start breaking down possessions. And I thought your kids made the most or more of their possessions in overtime than Idaho did. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think all your assessments on that are just spot on. I think it tears your heart out to guard that team, which, looking at the stat sheet at halftime and really feeling it out in the third quarter, played so well most of the fourth, and then all of a sudden, the very thing you can't let happen, we let happen. And one was
not
not
very often though. 3
Yeah.
3-pointers in a row.
Well, with this team, it really does. I mean,
Right.
they can really do it, and that's one thing we wanted to limit. The first one was just an off an offensive rebound, which happens all the time. I was like, okay, can't, mad about it, don't like it. But the next 2 were mistakes. We didn't guard it right, and those are the ones that just break your heart. So, but what you said, to bounce back, and that's really one of the things that we talk about. We talked before the game, and then at the start of overtime, was we have been in this situation. We need to walk on the court with a presence and a confidence that we can make plays in overtime. We know what it's like. You know, I'd like to be in Idaho's position where they've been beating people by 20 and 25 and not in overtime, but at certain times in these situations, I felt like our team, there's a little calmness about them now, and we're getting to the point where there's a little bit more calmness to us when we run our stuff, and we're getting a little bit better on the offensive end, no matter what people are doing to us. Not
I thought
perfect.
the first half, your offensive game was really.
Yeah, I agree.
The passes were crisp. There were people getting in, finding lanes, getting open, making shots. I think what you did, in a sense, was maybe surprised Idaho.
Yeah, I agree. I think our movement was great, and then we said at halftime too. I think Zagina misses 2 threes that are just wide open, and Kylie misses 1 that's wide open. Your 2 best 3-point shooters that, you know, if you make those, you're everything about the half would have been perfect. But you know, it's just a game of adjustments, and I think that's the hard part still for our team is when it gets physical. Their number 13, Forte, she's a tough matchup for Becca in being guarded. We asked Becca to be a distributor, and that quickness and that athleticism on her really, you know, can take its toll on her.
She played her pretty well. Her numbers are impressive.
Right. Well, I thought we did a great job on her, but the pressure is generally what hurts us. And so she led the pressure from that spot on the floor. And in the second half, I felt like we lost a little bit of our continuity. Maybe their press bothered us a little bit. But again, I love the fact that we played small and had some real success. We took Becca out and had Zagina as our 5 and had great success. And then we went back to Becca, who obviously had a tremendous night tonight. But we continue to have really individual players step up and make big plays. And you mentioned it, Kiwi's 3 was huge. I didn't think Savvy had a tremendous game tonight overall.
Smith or Scott?
Savannah Smith, Savvy Smith. But she's a gamer, and she wants the ball in the hands, and she makes huge plays. And I told her at some point when she did something not good on the baseline, and there's going to be a day when, it's probably a year away, or a year and a half away, when she's just dominates the game and can control everything and can just make play after play after play. She's just a young player. She's almost too, I tell her she's too tricky. She thinks she's got to trick someone into something, and they don't know what she needs to make them guard her first and then come back in a year from now.
She got away with it in high school.
Yeah, she just thinks she needs to be sneaky, and she really doesn't right now. She just needs to play the play, and then as she gains experience, her game is just going to be off the charts overall. But I love the fact that she can not have a great floor game or not be really energy-wise everything we want, and then all of a sudden, she's making big baskets and wants the ball and can win the game for you. That's why she's on the floor, is that she's capable of that.
You know, and I didn't bring Savannah Scott in here, but 12 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and she plays over 40 minutes. That's putting up some decent numbers and giving you, you know, what doesn't show up is the effort in the 40 minutes. I mean, she's all over the floor. She's, you know, rushing even to rebounds that aren't hers to maybe, you know, create something. I think, you know, she gave you a lot tonight too.
Well, she just continues. I mean, we could talk about her every game. That's the thing. You know, it's too many minutes. That's probably my fault, but you just don't think to take her out. It's not her scoring that keeps her in. It's just a combination of everything she brings us. But at some point, I have to learn how to manage her minutes a little bit more because, you know, she's too key for us to. Tonight's great, but how can she recover and be good the next game? So those are the hard things for us to. That's why we continue. I told the freshmen, you know, I feel like our ceiling to get better continues to be higher than probably some of the teams in this league, and it rests mainly on our freshmen. I haven't been able to feel comfortable putting our freshmen in, but if they would continue to improve like they're doing in practice on a daily basis, and we can start playing more people and resting our people a little bit more, because it's going to come down to Reno, you know, an attrition thing. You're going to have to play 9 and 10 people to last 4 days or 4 games. And, you know, it's a fight for us now. We're obviously fighting to try to get to a top 4 seed. That might not happen. So we've got to continue to really get our freshmen to where they're comfortable and they can get on the floor and help us and relieve some of these big minute players.
What do you anticipate Saturday? You've seen them once, and I'm sure you watched them more.
Yeah, they're tremendous. They pressured us a lot. They really bothered us with they get out and deny the wings.
Really?
And that really bothered us. We held them to one of their lowest totals. They're a very high-scoring offensive team, but I think they had 59 points. So defensively, we've got to know personnel, and they've got probably one of the player of the year players in Delaney Hodgins. I think it's Delaney. The older one, Haley Hodgins. Yeah. She's a tremendous shooter, a little bit like Salvatore tonight, but maybe a little bit better offensive player on the bounce and on the shot. So they just can put up points. So it's going to be a challenge for us defensively, but I think the biggest thing for us is how are we going to handle their pressure, and can we run our stuff against a real smart team and seasoned team. You know, and this is the fun thing for us is we're looking at people who are ahead of us on the standings. So, you know, it's a great chance for us to make a statement about can we compete with the best people in this league.
That feels good to get back. It seems like you've been gone a long time.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that we had five of our last 7 are at home. So I wish we had won a couple more on the road. It was a heartbreaking loss at Weber, but we can turn those things around if we can regroup and get ourselves right and put some wins together here.
Okay.
It's a good start tonight.